Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor Walz, you stated in your opening statement the following: but nothing Minnesota has done stands in the way of federal government managing its border security policy.
Okay.
Governor, I want to ask you, why are you lying to this committee?
I am not.
Who's the top law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota?
The top law enforcement officer? Yep. Attorney General.
Yeah, that's right. What's his name? What's his name?
Are you asking me, do you know his name?
Do you know his name? Do you know his name?
I know the AG Ellison.
This is an article right here I'd like to submit for the record. Minnesota AG says will not enforce federal immigration laws as DOJ threatens to prosecute officials who resist.
Without objection to ordered.
Why are you lying to this committee? That is the top law enforcement officer in your state who's saying he will not comply with the federal government.
Nothing in his opinion changes the fact that state law requires all state and county officials to ask for immigration status when a convicted felon is
No,
committed.
I'm sorry, Governor. He is saying he will not comply with federal laws. That's your top law
nothing in this
enforcement
opinion
officer.
changes how
You're
we-
lying and misrepresenting yourself to this committee. Now I want to ask you this. Do you think in that line of questioning, free health care, food assistance, free college tuition, driver's licenses, and cash assistance, do you think that that's helping or hurting this government manage its border security and policies?
Well, Minnesota ranks first in health care. We rank third in safety on our roads.
Let me answer that for you. It's actually hurting because what
It's
you've
making my state
created
safer
is
and more
you've created a
prosperous.
state that is now a magnet that is
There's
drawing
no law.
illegals
There's no sanctuary
to
law in
Minnesota.
Minnesota, Congressman.
I know you guys haven't put it that way on the books, but your state has everything, every element in it that is consistent with the sanctuary state.
That's
Moving
incorrect.
on, Mr. Walz. How about you calling ICE agents modern-day Gestapo? That also stands. Do you think that helps our federal government carry out its law enforcement?
I think best
border
practices in law
security
enforcement
policies?
by identifying who you are, identifying the vehicles, and making sure everyone has due process helps our law enforcement. I think covering your faces.
So you think that
rolling in there-
you think that helps calling our law enforcement agents that? What does ICE stand for, Governor? Immigration, Custom Enforcement, right? These are the guys that are tasked with enforcing immigration, federal immigration
That's right.
laws?
Federal. That's their job. It's
So
not
you
the
think
state's
that
job.
calling them Gestapo is helping? You're not standing in the way. None of the messaging, none of the rhetoric is standing in the way of this administration doing what they've been tasked to do. Is that what you're saying?
I think what would help them is to follow due process, and when they do these missions, do the things that we expect of law enforcement.
How about when you
Identify
went on
yourself.
Anderson Cooper, Governor Walz, and you said, how high is this wall? If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in a 30-foot ladder factory. Do you think that helps our federal government carry out its law enforcement, its border security and policy operations?
When did I say that?
You went on Anderson Cooper and said that. Do you not remember saying that? Because you've said so many outlandish things that you can't even keep track of them?
The point being is
The
that
clip
you need
is there
more
for
information.
everybody. It's there for all Americans. If you guys want to go watch it, it's an easy Google. All right, Governor, you recently went on Gavin Newsom's podcast. You stated in regards to MAGA voters, I scare them a little bit, which is why they spend so much time on me. No, I'm serious because they know I can fix a truck. That's your direct quote. You also said on the show, I think I could kick most of their asses. I want to be very clear with you, Governor. You do scare us a bit, but it's not because you can fix a truck or change a tire. It's actually because of your radical left-wing agenda. You supported putting tampons in boys' bathrooms. You advocated for the disarming of Americans of their Second Amendment rights. You're pro-sanctuary city, as we have uncovered here today. You claim there is no guarantee to free speech when it comes to misinformation and hate speech. That right there is why the American people have such a hard time with you. It's not because we're crazy MAGA people. It's because of your radical left-wing agenda. I want to ask you on that last one where you claim there's no guarantee to free speech. Did you pick that up on one of your 30 trips to communist China, Governor? That sounds a lot like something that they would do. Yes or no?
So I don't believe hate speech
Okay.
has a place in there. Hate speech that incites violence.
Governor Walz, you said that Kamala Harris picked you for vice president to code talk to white guys. How did that work out for this administration? How well did you do with white guys?
I don't have the
You
data.
lost by 22 points to white guys. And it's because you talk like the way you do, you say the things you do, and you have this radical left-wing ideology. So if you want to continue that rhetoric, Go on, brother. Keep doing it. We'll keep destroying you in elections.
And
Thank you, and I yield back.
The people of Minnesota will continue to have me serve them.
Cross our hearts and hope to die.
By these 50 countries, differing so much in race and religion, in language and culture.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Well, I know they're lying. They tricked me once, but they're not going to trick me twice. The time is now. Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. Dave Penn, your host. Glad to be with you as always. Episode number 281. It's got kind of a catchy title. Priests, Prostitutes, and Politicians. Coming to you this Thursday night, February 19th, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Good morning, Tanner.
Good morning.
That was a cold open featuring ex-SEAL, maybe you're a SEAL for life, Eli Crane, who's now in the Congress, questioning Governor Walz way back on June 12th of 2025. The question would be, why do I play this? Well, one thing I would like to bring out is that most of the SEALs, to me, in Congress seem to be firmly aligned with the neocon agenda, and I'm riding on this, but this guy, Eli Crane, whoa, this guy, he's kind of courageous. He's not mincing his words. He's saying, go on, brother, keep up that left-wing garbage and we'll just keep kicking your ass. And I think that is exactly what we like, what we need, and what we all must pursue. See, here in Minnesota, if you're listening to me in Minnesota, of course, all around the country, around the world, we have a natural human tendency to try to fit into the group, to not look for conflict. We like things to be smooth. It's less anxiety-provoking. But actually, when someone's stepping on your blue suede shoes, you have an option. You can have your shoes scuffed up and you can bend a knee, or you can stand up like Eli Crane did and just wrap it down. Didn't you think that was kind of a pretty well-organized questioning and drawing out of the conclusions that Eli Crane was looking for?
I think for the first part. Towards the end, I heavily disagree because he started going down. That last point was just a personal attack.
Which one are you talking about?
Did you pick that up from China? I love what he's saying, and it's all things that I wish I could say to Tim Walz. But you're right. You're at the committee right now. So I just feel like that's the time to put the facts absolutely straight like he was at the beginning.
Keep the ad hominem attacks out of it.
Yeah, just
I'm
because it
all for
waters
that.
it down.
This is the thing we all need to get to. These players, don't hate the players, hate the game. We put way too much energy into the players. The players are just actors and actresses on a stage. Why do we care about them? That they're not, and we're going to talk about this tonight. We have this elite group. We're seeing now clearly that there's an elite group of financiers, maybe 3,000 people, billionaires that are on all the boards, all the commissions. They are on the boards of the charitable trusts. They fund all kinds of NGO activity. They're aligned with the United Nations, the WEF. They're funding chairs at the schools. We talked about that in the last podcast. There's this tremendous pool of money out there. And the people that control that money, what do? They donate campaign resources, filling the coffers of, like Dustin Grage's favorite, Michelle Tafoya, pops up out of nowhere, no experience, an empty blouse, raising money like crazy. And they have all these ways of getting the money to these people. They manufacture a consensus around certain candidates. And they're actors and actresses. These politicians are not in charge. They're hired to do a job. They're sellouts. Almost all of them, we're going to look at that tonight. Priests, prostitutes, and politicians. How do we change it? Well, I asked Walter Hudson about that last night in a X interaction, and he said, tell the truth. Hey, Walter, I'm all with you. That's what we've been doing here at Free People Radio for years now. I'm glad everybody's catching up because the truth's popping out, like this Epstein thing. Now we're getting a view into how the rich and famous spend their free time. And that's not really fair of me. That's an ad hominem attack kind of sideways.
But see, we're on a podcast. This is a commentary. This is the perfect place to be saying that stuff. I'm just saying that when you're trying to make the case to the
you
House.
mean when you're all sworn in and given testimony?
Yeah, that's
Let's
when.
But I thought he did a great job just drawing out that while Minnesota is not a sanctuary state, all of the signatories, the way to support the newcomers, it's in state law.
Yeah.
So we're a magnet here in Minnesota, and this is June 12th, 2025. And then look what happened just a half a year later. The kindling was already in the fire pit.
Yeah.
It was
and I
it
could
was
be
waiting
wrong.
for a spark.
I could be wrong. I just think that, like, he was building a really good case, and then when you start doing those personal attacks, it
Turned you
makes
off.
it
Turned
not
you
just
off.
me, but even somebody that's like, imagine a Democrat watching that. They're just gonna go. They're gonna discredit everything that was just set up because they go, oh, look, it's a Republican just attacking
Let's
a Democrat.
get beyond this Democrat and Republican thing. We're going to talk about
but
that
that's
tonight.
Yeah.
No, we're going to talk about aligned interests very shortly. This Democrat-Republican thing, oh, come on now. Are we getting old enough now? No, this is a complete scam, theater in the extreme. We know that. If we don't know it, we got to figure it out. I'll just tell you a quick one. We're going to get late on this podcast, I can tell. I was talking to one of my family members last night, and we're going to cover this extensively next week. And she goes, do you know who David Rubenstein is? And I said, what do you mean? Knowing who he was. Because I wanted to hear what she was going to say. Because she's talking about podcasts, my podcast, and she watched Rubenstein, who was the founder of the Carlyle Group, something we'll cover next week. You don't know the Carlyle Group. The Carlyle Group is a defense arms investment fund. It's a hedge fund or a private equity group that's in the arms business. That's what they like to do.
Okay.
And my family member really liked this guy. Comes across very intelligent. He's Jewish, of course, Jewish family, kind of like him, right? And I said, do you know who this guy is? And she goes, what do you mean? He's great. He's a billionaire. I go, you have no idea who you're listening. Oh, he's so smart, and he's such a good, she started talking to me in Yiddish, such a good person. And I said, you know what? Let me just tell you, he's the chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations. He's necessarily, by definition, a bag unless God put him there to change the world.
Yeah.
And my family member goes, oh, what does that mean? Because she doesn't know what it means. So I explain what the Council on Foreign Relations is, going back to the wise men when Woodrow Wilson set it up during World War I, and its relationship with Chatham House and the CIA and MI6. She wasn't convinced. She wasn't convinced because, she has that worldview. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. You're for peace and well-being of the people? Oh, yeah, she's a leftist, right?
Yeah.
I said, do you know what the Carlyle Group does? She goes, what's the Carlyle Group? I said, that's his business. And then I read to her all the different defense industry companies they were invested in or had owned wholly. And I said, so this is the guy you like, but he makes his money off of killing people.
Yeah,
That's what he
war.
does.
Yeah.
And you know what was cool about my family member? Because we got some honor in the family.
Huh.
Because she was fighting me tooth and nail.
Yeah.
When I said hi to her, the first thing she said was, oh, today I was bringing food to people who were afraid to come out of their houses. That was her opening bid because she knows who I am, right? But it's family. I want to say hi to her. But when I told her and rapped down what the guy was doing for a living, she actually said, I don't know. I guess that's a great point. I'm going to have to research it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that we have. Maybe that's your point. Let's stay away from he's an asshole, and let's look at who he is and what he did.
Right. Look at his actions.
Stick
'Cause
at
I
the-
think they speak louder. I think they speak so
Well,
much louder.
it work with this family member. She said, wait, that's a good point. Let me check it out. It was cool. All right. So my point here is we've got this group. We've got this big money in these politicians mostly. And I'm not saying Eli Crane's on the payroll. I'm featuring him because he might be an independent thinker. Not very many of them are, as we're going to go through tonight. And what's going to happen now is we're going to have to sort this out. My theory is it's no longer a political issue. This is so far gone. Do you mind if I talk about that thing you said when we walked in about lying today? Can I talk about that just for a second?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so Tanner walks in today and he's all perplexed. And he says to me, what do you do if you got a kid that's lying? Has that ever happened to you? 5 times.
So every okay.
Okay, because it's, this is part of growing up. And I'm going to tell you, I still have to correct myself from time to time. Telling the truth, the search for truth, that's a lifetime pursuit. And sometimes we lie to ourselves. And when I said to Tanner, he's going, what do I do? I said, make I statements. I tell the truth because it makes me well. I tell the truth because it's good for my personal relationships. I tell the truth because it's good for my business life. Don't look at a kid and go, you're lying, because they're going to say, no, I'm not. Who broke the vase? And everybody points at each other. You don't have multiple kids. I had 3 in the house at one time under 6 years old. Who broke the vase? And everybody blames everybody else. This is just human nature. So, I was younger, closer to your age. I got pissed. Now I would just pick up the vase and say, I tell the truth. It's a lot easier on me. And I'd walk out of the room and let them think about it. I statements, because we have to, I think the solution to this global group of people that are involved in activities like Epstein, who's just one of many, a node of many, most of whom are not discovered. The solution to this is our own personal conduct, our own personal well-being, our own personal devotion to the search for truth. And, people are going to say, how is that going to change everything? Well, I'm not going to be changing what President Trump does. I don't have that kind of power, but I have the power to work on being a better and better person myself. I can affect the sphere of influence around me. We had a great podcast last week. Thousands of people watched it. It was cool. I felt good because I knew what we're working here at Free People Radio was spreading out. So I'm advocating for a personal well-being. We're going to talk about that tonight. And then a personal activity, which is to take that well-being into your political process and spread goodness with everybody you interact with. And I'm going to tell you, I'm here in Minnesota, mostly interacting with Republican Party people, and there's a lot of just stupid people and a lot of deluded people and a lot of evil people that are gumming up the works of change. And we have to talk to them, the ones that we can talk to and change their mind. The art of persuasion, that's very important. Some of them, as we're going to do tonight, we just got to call them out. Let's listen to number 2.
The average Minnesota 10th grader, actually, has done more to stand up to this federal occupation than any state Republican lawmaker, and that is shameful. So Minnesota Republicans, as we start this legislative session, have 2 options. They can continue to be silent in the face of this economic siege. They can continue to be silent while their own constituents, business owners, neighbors, teachers, doctors, children are taken and kidnapped, separated from their family. Or they can join the hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans across race, place, political and party affiliation who have stood up against this lawless federal government and demand accountability, demand that we get our neighbors back and help rebuild once this is actually over. They have a lot of power to get this to stop, and I hope they use it.
That is Erin Quade, DFL, a state senator, calling out the Republican caucus as the legislature is back in session. And I have a message for the Republican caucus. You back down, they are going to kick your ass. That's why I played Eli Crane up front, he was a hammer on Tim Walz, and he made the case. Tanner didn't like the ad hominems at the end, but he made the case pretty good up front. Would you agree with me?
No, he did. He painted a really good picture.
And that's what we got to be doing here now. And see, this is my concern about our Republican Party caucus here in Minnesota. Mostly, they're get along to go along people.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we are where we are. If they had stood up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, screaming about fraud, screaming about it, holding press conference after press conference, demanding accountability. Oh, no, we didn't have any power. You know, when you're elected, you have power. You have the power of the microphone at the very least. See, if you don't do this now, if you don't aggressively call these people out for what they're up to, you're going to get crushed because they have no qualms. I'm talking about the Democrat. They're very clear. And we have to seek aligned interests with these people. But I don't mean giving in. We have to find a new set of aligned interests so we can govern. We're going to talk about that right around the corner. That's coming up next, aligned interests. But to give in to these people, to act nice, to act like we accept this, like we can govern with people that are running a cover revolution, and then she pulls out the rule of law. What rule of law? Because a bunch of leftists have gone into law schools and become judges and legislators and destroyed the fabric of our nation, turning it into a communist country, and we're supposed to say, oh, that's okay? No, they knew what they were doing while we were watching the Vikings games, while we were watching the hockey games, while we were getting high, okay? They were not wasting their time. We were wasting ours. So now we're in a spot where things are completely out of control, and we're going to have to figure out, do we have the strength to restore the republic? And that's up to every single one of us. So let me just say, Minnesota Speaks, a digital space on X every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Go catch that. That's a great place to gather. Now, caucus is over. Does that mean your political engagement's over? No, wherever you are. I don't care what state you're in. And I don't care what party you're in, because it doesn't make any difference, because they're the same. Actors and actresses. Find your local committee and just go. Just go and sit and watch these people. And you know what you're going to see? Most of them are completely feckless and ineffective. When you go there, it's kind of like watching a kid. Hey, did you do your homework? Yes. You know, I like to do my homework because it's good for my well-being. It's good for my career. It's good for everything that I do. Because, you know, when you go to your committee meeting, you're going to recognize nobody does anything. It's a social activity. And you're going to say, wow, that's strange. Maybe I could help. And raise your hand and say, you know, I'm a Republican. I'd like to help elect Republicans. How can I help? You don't have to wait to get elected. You need to rush the field and get involved right now. We have a huge get out the vote opportunity coming up in the primary election in August and then in the general in November. You don't need to be in the party to do that. You just need to get your neighbors to the polls. We're waiting around for people that don't do anything. You're going to keep waiting for them to do something? Look at their results. Look at, you know, Tanner, it's kind of hilarious. You just joined the party, basically.
Yeah.
You're a delegate. I mean, if you're waiting around for these people to lead you somewhere, you're going to be waiting a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've only gotten one email and it's a poll.
So
So
isn't that great?
I could
Boy,
see.
they reached right out to him. See, if you were in my, but see, they don't want, why don't they reach out to Tanner? Because they don't know who he is. God forbid he could be one of those activists that actually want to change things. We don't want that. That might tip over our dog bowl. These people are not concerned about the well-being of the people, about the Commonwealth. That's not their thing. They're into it for self-aggrandizement. And that is a problem. So I'm going to say to the Republicans, you got to get down. And some of them are doing it. Walter Hudson's doing it. We need more people to step up to the microphone and rebut this color revolution. Rebut it. We don't need the Julia Coleman saying, oh, we got to govern, like she was very condescending to me. I bet you've never been elected Yeah, you're right, Julia. You chose to do it. Go ahead. Do your job. Rebut communism or be prepared to be unseated, because we're going to attune Minnesota citizens to what a color revolution is. We've been working on it, and it's not going away. Let me tell you right now, there is a potential, guess what this is? A rent strike. Have you heard about it?
I think you mentioned it yesterday, but I haven't heard about it.
Oh, the rent strike. They're not really that good on the left either. I'll read it to you carefully. Labor and tenant unions in Minneapolis and St. Paul announced a March 1st rent strike drive, calling on Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to immediately declare an eviction moratorium and rent relief. If authorized and launched, this would be the largest rent strike in the United States in the last 100 years and the largest rent strike in Minnesota history. So they're like testing the waters. Bunch of different unions. They're seeing, do they have this? I mean, are they really? Because, think about it. If you strike on your rent, you could get thrown out of your house, right?
Well, we're in the middle of winter, though. You can't do that in the winter. You can't evict someone in the middle of winter.
Well, by the time they evict them, it'll be spring. We're
Yeah.
39 days away from Easter.
But I don't know. Let's go down this path and think about this. If half an apartment complex did not pay rent, you think they're really going to evict 50% of their people? Or do you think they're going to maybe come to the business table and make out some...
Make out what? What are we going to make out? This Quade is talking about rule of law.
Mhm.
Rule of law is, I owe you money, I pay you. That's before we even get to rule of law. That's called do unto
Yeah.
others as you do unto yourself.
I guess I could see the problem with like demanding a law change, but I almost could also see like you could scare a company quite a bit.
Okay, I like that. Let's go on this for a second.
Yeah.
Because what they want, once they get this going, if the people figured it out on the left, based on your argument, nobody would ever have to pay rent again, would they?
I'm not saying that people
Oh, no,
shouldn't.
no. Take it to its logical conclusion. If everybody said that was renting,
Mm.
I'm not paying rent, what could anybody do about it?
Yeah, then the option would be clear that you evict those people.
How would you evict everybody? How can you evict everybody? I'm saying if every renter
Yeah.
woke up and said, I woke up today, I'm a communist. Rent is exploitation of the people,
Yeah.
because that's what happened in China. I know that for a fact in 49.
Yeah.
Everybody got free rent. In fact, I had a friend of mine whose grandfather was one of the richest people in China, and he was in Shanghai, and he had a mansion with like 50, 60 rooms. And the communists came in and they said, you can keep your mansion. You get 3 rooms in the corner. And they filled the mansion with the regular people. And there was no rent charged. He had to pay for it. So, this thing about the rent,
Mm.
if everybody says we're not paying rent, what are they going to do here in Minnesota? And this is a very important thing to think through. Now, they're not committed to it because they're just as feckless and cowardly as the Republicans are. They're testing the waters.
Yeah.
How many people really have the bravery but Tanner, if I was a renter and 99% of the people weren't paying rent, and I'd look at why am I paying rent? I must be stupid. And then nobody'd pay rent. And then what would happen next?
Yeah. I mean, it would just turn into chaos because if people are trying to...
The system would collapse.
Yeah.
Okay, this is called a color revolution. They're testing the waters. They're trying to develop and manufacture consent among the renters to just stop paying. And I'll tell you what's interesting about this. This is not anybody. There is, I want to mention their names. This is a quote. Tenants in Minnesota are in a crisis. The federal invasion forced many of our neighbors to stay home. So we're doing this to protect the newcomers. And devastated our local economy, said Minneapolis City Council member Aisha Chugtai. So we've got the city council members. They're getting down with this thing. They're actually supporting this activity. Wansley, there's 4 of them. There's 4 council members: Jason Chavez, Ward 9, Aisha Chugtai, Ward 10, Aaron Chowdhury, Ward 12, and Robin Wasley, Ward 2. They're all supporting this. So our actual elected officials in Minneapolis are down with the rent strike. That's called a revolution.
Yeah. No, I can see that. It's like, I'm just trying to explore it because it almost seems like a paradox that there is no right answer. Because as a renter myself, I will say, yeah, rent's gotten freaking crazy. It's nuts. It's to a point that it's like almost unaffordable.
Just stop paying. Join the strike.
Yeah, I guess, and maybe this is just a fairy tale kind of thought, but I think like they are stuck and addicted to the system just as much as we are. So when I say that they'll come back to the negotiation table, I almost feel a strike could be helpful in the sense that these business people that run the apartments are going to go, we just need to sweeten the deal a little more. Okay, rent's only this much,
I
and you
feel
get
the
this
same way.
amenity.
I'm a renter.
Yeah.
I rent commercial property. I'm going to stop paying. I'm stopping. And I owe suppliers, I owe money. I'm going to stop paying them too. Let's just stop. Let's have a color revolution. Let's grind the system to a halt and renegotiate.
Yeah.
But see, here's my point. And if you're a leftist and you're watching this and you're getting ready to throw shade on me, I'm going to tell you I'm looking for aligned interests. I'm looking for aligned interests. Who is really the enemy of the people? Can you put up this open letter from CEOs of large Minnesota-based corporations? Not that one. There it is. That one right there. See all these in Minnesota. If you're a leftist, let's say you're down with the rent strike. Who's going to foot the bill? Who's toting the note for this suffering that we, the people, are experiencing economically? Look at this cast of characters. Land O'Lakes, Target, Cargill, buying up the farmland in the Ukraine, Eco Labs, Medtronics, 3M. I mean, here's the list of all the big companies in Minnesota. You're a leftist, you're down with the rent strike, you're a communist, Robin Wansley. Maybe you're going to hear this. I want to know who you folks are, and I'm going to tell you why. It's either door A, which this is a bunch of theater and nothing's going to happen, which means you have not manufactured enough consent to pull this off, and you're all going to go back home and suck your thumbs. Okay, that's cool. There's a lot of that on the Republican side. Door B, you're actually going to do this. And your goal is to take your fellow Minnesota citizens, American citizens, and through Governor Walz's action to have a moratorium on eviction and support the newcomers with some kind of money, you're actually going to tax every other citizen in the state. You're going to tax Tanner. They'd be taxing you. You got a job.
Mm-hmm.
If the state of Minnesota takes care of these newcomers, you're paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? You good with that?
I don't like it.
Because you're not going to...
This is the thing, is like, I'm not against that idea. Like, I would wish that America was in a place that we could help people that actually needed it. But right now we are $37 trillion in debt. So that is where, no, I don't like it right now because we're writing checks we can't spend.
We're talking about also supporting people that are not here legally. They're here illegally.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an interesting concept. You know, it brings me back to Wright County, where this Dustin Gragey holds forth. He just drips with insincerity. Wright County is talking about Wright County supporting Michelle Tafoya. Wright County was named by the Trump administration as a sanctuary county, which means their budget is set up to take care of a lot of these newcomers. Because how did the newcomers get here? The same people that own the Carlyle Group and have access to our political class? It's the same people that sell the weapons brought the newcomers. When we realize that, and I think they realize it on the left, so I'm going to say to Robin Wansley and all the communists here in Minneapolis, don't tax Tanner just because he's got a job. He's one of the people. You got a bunch of corporations here doing business in Minnesota that got more money than Midas.
Do you need tires? Go to tireget.com, TIREGET.com. The link is down in the description. I don't know about you, but I don't like waiting in a tire shop or talking to a salesman. TireGet makes it so easy I can order the tires right from my couch. Seriously, it's one website, a few clicks, and the tires are delivered right to your installer. You drop off your car, and boom, your tires are on. Plus, you get to support Free People Radio. So not only do you get tires, but you also get to support your favorite show. We'll even throw in an extra little deal. Just enter promo code FPR in the checkout for an extra 3% off.
Tell Governor Walz specifically to tax these corporations that came out with a letter the day after Preddy was killed and said we need de-escalation. Why did they do that? Because the protests were bad for their cash flow. It's not that they cared about the people. They don't care about the people. They care about the cash. So tax them, because I'm down with that. Because these are the people that are in the 3,000. These are the people that run the deal. We got them right here in Minnesota. We've got corporate owners here in Minnesota that are multiple billionaires that live off the people, that parasitize the people, that are part of the vampire system. Please, leftists, this is what we call aligned interests. I am very suspicious of and working against the unfettered power of the billionaire class. So, communists in Minnesota, could we have the aligned interest of not taking it out on Tanner? He doesn't have the money to pay for the newcomers, but these sons of bitches do. Focus your fire on the people that are exploiting Minnesota citizens. That's called aligned interest. Oh, they're not going to like that in the Republican Party. You want to know why? Because the Republican Party works for these companies, Chamber of Commerce and all. But guess what? On the Democrat side, they work for those companies also. Oh, now we're getting down to it.
I want to share something real quick because we're kind of on the topic. I got this email from my child's school district, and they were talking. They made a digital learning plan for families that are affected and didn't feel safe sending their kids to school. So it says the digital instruction plan was designed to allow students to continue learning and receive support even if they weren't physically present at school. This approach was limited, responsive, and done on a case-by-case basis as needed. So my question, and I emailed the school, I've not gotten a response back. I said, I'm confused what case-by-case basis entails. How is that decided? Is the school getting confirmation from parents that they are of non-legal status, or are they deciding this based on ethnicity?
It'd be interesting if you get an answer.
Yeah, I don't think I
Bring
am.
it all in here, would you? Because
But
that's a great question.
It's wild that case-by-case basis. I thought the whole argument was that American citizens were being affected.
This is not about American citizens in Minneapolis. This is about the newcomers. You heard Quade talk about rule of law.
Yeah.
Okay. They're here illegally. And they want the Republican. You know, she's using rule of law to shame the Republicans. But we got all these people that are here illegally. In fact, they have a thing they're doing in Minneapolis called Anti-ICE Activist Group Promotes Jury Nullification Training. Jury nullification. You know what that means? These are the leftists. In case you're wondering, Republicans, if we're going through a color revolution, if you're really going to accept this and sit on your hands and not resist this in a full-throated fashion, these people are going to plow your ass under. Jury nullification training is to train potential jurors to acquit the accused whether or not they violated the law or not. In other words, they're not judging the defendant. They're judging the law. We're hitting the place now when I say there's no rules. There's no rules. There's no rules. So if you're going to if you're in the Republican Party caucus and you're seeing this, we got to get a strong backbone. And I'm going to tell you, there's some people here in CD3, Danny Nadeau, Andrew Myers. You people are going to be faced with gun control legislation where one vote is going to infringe on the Second Amendment rights of Minnesota citizens. Let's see if you people are going to stand up. I don't think you will, but surprise me. And if you don't stand up, this is going to be your last term. Thank God every day for all of your blessings. Priests, prostitutes, and politicians, please play number 3.
Greetings to our CUFI family across America and around the world. The topic today is, who owns the land of Israel? All real estate transactions go to great lengths to determine the identity of the original owner of the land to prevent a legal cloud from being over the title deed. The debate of who owns the land of Israel can be resolved in the same manner. So who was the original owner of the hotly contested strip of real estate on the eastern edge of the Mediterranean Sea? The answer is not Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. The correct answer is God Almighty, the creator of heaven and earth. The title deed to Israel reads, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Genesis 1:1. In the beginning means the dateless past, when God Almighty created the world. The word created in Hebrew is bara, which means to make from nothing the heavens and the earth. The word earth is the Hebrew word eretz, meaning dry ground. So at the end of Genesis 1:1, there is a complete creation. Therefore, God as creator of the earth is the original owner. King David confirms this. King David is Israel's prophet, poet, and warrior statesman. He puts his pen to parchment and writes, "The earth is the Lord's, and all its fullness, the world and those who dwell therein." Psalms 24:1. For 3,500 years, the land of Israel has belonged to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and their seed forever by an everlasting and eternal blood covenant recorded in the Bible. Israel is the only nation on earth created by a sovereign act of God. Genesis 12:1-3, Genesis 13, 15, 17, and 22 confirm that. The land was given to the Jewish people exclusively and eternally in the book of Genesis. Again, Genesis 12, Genesis 13, 14, 17, and Genesis 15, verses 18-21. The land God promised includes the modern-day nation of Israel and parts of modern-day Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. That is in Genesis 15, verses 18-21. The concept that the Palestinians have owned the land of Israel in times past, that God Almighty promised to Abraham and the Jewish people forever, is one of history's greatest frauds. The claim that the Arabs are related to Abraham through Ishmael is a fact. Their claim to the land of Israel through Ishmael is an absolute false statement. The Bible clearly records that Abraham pled with God to allow Ishmael to own the land. God sent back a one-word FedEx from heaven saying, "No." Genesis 17, verses 17-18. I'm inspired to send this message to the 8.2 million plus members of Christians United for Israel by the fact that months ago, President Trump met with Prime Minister Netanyahu in Washington, D.C. to present the Trump peace proposal. I was there. It was a masterful proposal that gave the Palestinians the opportunity of a better life through a $50 billion investment package. It was an effort that required years of work by the brilliant and talented inner circle of the president. It was made clear in the Washington meeting that this historic peace plan could go into effect within days. If the Palestinians immediately rejected the plan, the U.S. would be prepared to accept the enactment of Israel's sovereignty over parts of the West Bank within 48 hours. It was made clear that this historic plan could go into effect within days. However, days have become weeks, and weeks have become months. To be clear, the Palestinians have never owned Judea or Samaria. that Israel will meet with a Palestinian leadership that still supports terrorists and incites violence against the Jewish people is a commentary on Israel's willingness to make every effort to advance peace with their neighbors, not a commentary on the Palestinians being deserving of yet another chance at the negotiating table. Our role is to heed the commandment that we pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and the time to pray for the peace of Jerusalem is now. I'll talk with you next week. This is Pastor John Hagee, founder of Christians United for Israel.
I have a word to say.
Yeah.
Wow. That is a 5-year-old piece. This is long before we had the October 7th massacre and the subsequent destruction of Hamas and Hezbollah by the Israelis. And of course, we're sitting here on the precipice of what could be another war in the Middle East. I'm not going to talk about it because, why fortune tell? It's going to be what it's going to be. I am here to talk about priests and prostitutes and politicians. They have something in common. You know what they have in common? They lie for a living. That's what they do. Their whole program is about trickery. And let's talk about the most difficult one to sort through first, the priests. Because a priest, this is a pastor, John Hagee, famous. And, he gave a wonderful summation of Israel or the Jewish people's claim to the land. And I have to ask myself again, why would a bunch of Christians care about the Jews being in Israel? I know the answer, but, you have a little suspicion about it.
Is there just, and maybe I don't understand this theology-wise, but I was under the impression that when Jesus came, the Old Testament didn't necessarily just get washed away, but the covenant was to replace it, or the new covenant.
Not according to Reverend Hagee.
So there's Christians that believe that they both stand in place?
Jesus did not come to overturn the law. He came to fulfill it.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a two-part. It's a religion in two parts, Book A and Book B.
Right. So then I guess where my faith kind of lays is I'm hearing that more so as when God promised the land of Israel, Jesus came and fulfilled that. So that box is already checked.
Two completely different ideas. Let's keep it focused on Reverend Hagee.
Okay, my bad. I'll ask you this question after the podcast.
It's not bad. I have an agenda with this, and here's your bit is good. You're saying, what is this all about? I don't get it. You're saying, I thought that we were under a new covenant.
Yeah.
I thought I was taught that when Jesus redeemed the people, it's not like the Old Testament went away, but we're really living in a New Testament.
Yeah.
And that's not what the British thought back in about 1840. Because what they're looking at, because this kind of thinking goes back to England in about 1840.
Right.
The sola scriptura, when they started to read the Bible, the Old Testament, word for word, they said, okay, we don't want to listen to the Catholic Church and all their homilies and all their metaphors and all their stories. We're going to read this thing word for word. What does it mean plain? And then they interpreted it the way they wanted to. This old book, thousands of years old. And what they came up with was, because they were Christians and they wanted the second coming of Christ, they believed that if the Jews, I'm talking about the religious people, the pastors, if the Jews were converted to Christianity and then ingathered in Israel, Jesus would come back because it's part of the end times prophecy. The ingathering of the people of Israel. That is according to Scripture, part of the process of Christ coming back and the second coming. So what they thought they'd do is hurry the process along. They weren't going to let it happen natural. They were actually going to craft state policy to move the Jews back to Israel. That was called Christian Zionism. It actually predated Jewish Zionism by about 50 years. Everybody came up with the idea all at once. When you have a good idea in business, I've had this happen many times. That's a billion-dollar idea. And then 6 other people have the idea, and it's not even $1 million idea. Ideas are, they're out there floating around, and then they start popping up in people's minds. And then a lot of people have it from their own perspective. So we had Christian Protestant preachers in England that were saying, we've got to bring back Christ. We want Christ to come back. Let's ingather the Jews. That's part of the process. At the same time, the British Empire needed to have control of the Middle East because of the Suez Canal and the new oil fields, and the political people working with these priests. See, these people are all intertwined. The priests, the prostitutes, and politicians, they're all working together. These are the people that run the deal. The priests, the prostitutes, and the politicians. They're running the deal. The rest of us are just trying to catch up. So they came up with this idea that we're going to use this religious idea and ingather the Jews for a religious outcome. But really what it was about, and this is not me speculating, it is well documented from a scholarly perspective, that the government of the British Empire got down with this idea so that they could weaken the Ottoman Empire, take control of the crossroads of the Middle East, which is Israel, Palestine, protect the oil fields, and protect the Suez Canal. It was an aligned interest. The religious people wanted the second coming of Christ, and the British Empire wanted the second coming of the cash. They had an aligned interest. And this happened in the mid-1800s. We have a 200-plus year problem now because these people decided that they were going to go about this policy. They're priests. What are priests doing proxying for a divine process? What are priests doing working with the British Empire? What's John Hagee doing in the room when President Trump's rolling out his peace plan for the Middle East? Why are 8 million Christians involved in an organization called Christians United for Israel? That's not priesthood. That's political. What's the priest doing with the politics? Okay, so let's sort out these priests, okay? They're in a political game. Every preacher in every congregation is a businessman. No cash, no salary. He has to keep his flock together. They're paying dues after all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his pay, whatever it is, maybe he's not only making $80,000 a year. I bet John Hagee's making $80 million a year. I don't know. But when you got $8 million kicking in dues, oh, there's some money. I think the budget on Christian United for Israel is about $20 million a year. I'm sure he's getting some pay for running it.
Yeah.
And then he's got a huge ministry. I mean, this is a business. I'm saying it's a business. Priesthood is a business. And man, it's kind of tacky just to have 200 people in a shack. Why not line up with the giant political issue like putting the Jews in Israel and supporting them? Oh, you're going to raise a lot of money on that because it's not about the Jews. It's about Christ coming back. So they got a huge grift going on here. And you're going to say, oh, no, Professor Penn, this is in the Bible. Well, let me tell you. Do we all agree that we're in an information war? Do you trust what you read on the internet?
No.
There's an information war.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of lies out there?
Yep.
Don't sometimes I send you a clip and go, is this AI or is it real?
Yeah.
Because I can't tell.
Yeah. Well, it's getting hard for me. I might not be able to help you out with that anymore.
Well, isn't that interesting? And we've got a whole world of Western civilization based on a book that was written thousands of years ago. And here's what the book says. The book was written by the Israelites, now called the Jews. And in the book, the people that wrote the book said that they had the deed to the land.
Interesting.
I am the king of a small African country. It's not the truth. It's what I can prove. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we've got a whole thing. People are going to say, How, Professor Penn, you believe in God. How could you question that book? And I'm just going to say, if that book has established a process by which we've had an unending series of unnecessary wars that go on to this day, and we're on the precipice of another one, I'm not questioning everything in the book. I maybe not even question the book. I have a hard time saying it. But I can't trust anything I read or anything I watch as being the truth. Yet, something that was written 3,000 years ago by people I don't know with research I can't follow up on, I'm staking my whole life on it. And it takes a lot of courage to say that, because people are going to go, oh, you're the devil for saying that. I don't know where the devil is, but I know a lot of people have been killed in pursuit of this thing. And I know when I read that book, what's divine, because it jumps out at me. I can feel it. Like when Christ said, first great commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your might and all your soul. And number 2, love your neighbor as you wish to be loved. Okay, that seems to be a lifetime of work. That's rather priestly.
Yeah.
Christ wasn't saying, hey, we're going to take on the Roman Empire now. He didn't do that. He wasn't in the politics game. He was in the self-empowerment game. He was spreading a gospel that brings people in contact with the divine. Not bringing people in contact with the president and his $50 billion reconstruction plan for the Palestinians. Boy, I love the way he says Palestinian. He's got a unique way of saying it. It kind of drips with kind of sarcasm or derision. It's really, really good. Good work. Great actor. He's a great actor. He's a priest. He's in the priesting business, the business of priesting. Now, what does a priest do from my perspective? He empowers his people to be in contact with God themselves. And once he's done that, his job no longer exists. Because if I have my own relationship with God, why do I need a priest? What the hell is he good for? So, of course, if you think about this from a bureaucratic standpoint, if the priest really teaches the people to be in contact with God, they're going to have to go get a job digging ditches because the easy money's over, right?
Right.
I haven't been in a church or synagogue for years. They're not getting any of my money. I don't need them. What about the community part? Well, I'm kind of a loner. That's just me. If I had a strong need for community, maybe I'd go. And I'm not saying it's bad for someone that wants to go. But when I say these people are liars, priests, prostitutes, and politicians, the lie, the fundamental lie, is that we need these people to be in contact with the Most High God. They have usurped and taken over the natural relationship between man and God. And you know who was the founder of that whole idea? That'd be the Jews. The Jews, the priestly class, the Levites. The Levites. We still know, like in the Jewish, there's the 12 tribes of Israel. I have no idea what tribe I'm from, right? But if you're from the Levite tribe, you still know who you are to this very day. Because guess what? When it comes time for passing out the free treats and the cash, you're at the front of the line. So if you're a priest and you're listening to me, like John Gapp, I hope I'm not hurting his feelings. I like John. But John's job is to connect the people to God. He does a really good job at it. He's not necessary anymore.
Well, it just shows like it's a hard concept. This is why I am still on the part that I don't like money, because I think John Gapp has the purest intentions, and a lot of priests do have pure intentions. But in the system and how everything is to survive in this world, the church has to be constructed like a business. But then you can see how far we just get out of control with it. I don't know.
I'm going to say this again. The job of a priest is to teach the student how to have their own independent relationship with the Most High God.
Yeah.
Once that's done, they're just grifting. They're unnecessary. After that's done, and actually, you really don't even need the priests. All you need to do is to believe and work towards a relationship with God. You can do it a lot of different ways. Doesn't mean going to a church. You can go out in nature.
Mhm.
I mean, the pathway to God is culturally constructed to put certain people in control of it. And they're not going to let anybody get connected with God because they know if they do, they're going to lose their jobs.
Mhm.
That's a kind of a problem. It's kind of a conflict of interest. So what do we do instead of teaching people how to connect to the Most High God? We get 8 million people into a political organization called Christians United for Israel, because if you join this thing, Jesus is going to come back. Well, let me tell you what the Jews believe, just so you know. Because they must be important because they're putting them back into Israel. So 8 million Christians think the Jews are very important. So let's know what the Jews think about it. In case you're Christian and you don't know, I'm going to share with you. The Jews had claim to the land of Israel because they went into the land and killed everybody that was there, and it's in the Old Testament, all those battles. They took it over by force of arms. Caleb and Joshua went into the land and spied out the land, and they came back and they said, with the other spies, oh, there's giants in there. In other words, we can't beat these people. Caleb and Joshua said, nah, we'll beat them. And they beat them. And they killed them all. They killed them all. Ethnic cleansing, took the land. And they lost the land. And how did that happen? In Jewish legend, in Jewish lore. Because the people, the first temple was destroyed for 3 reasons. The Jews were idolaters, sexually immoral, and they were murderers. I'm talking about the Jews that had the land, the holiest people. They lost the first temple in Jewish tradition because they were fallen. They were worshiping idols, they were sexually immoral, and they were practicing murder. So the temple was destroyed. And then there was a second temple, and it was destroyed. And why was that one destroyed? Well, in the history, the lore, the legend, is the Jewish people weren't getting along with each other. They were in love with money too much. They couldn't mount a defense because they hated each other. That's kind of the inside pool. So there was what was called the diaspora, and the Jews wandered out into the world, lost their homeland. And up until the 19th century, when this Christian Zionism and this Jewish Zionism popped up, there was something that was really deep in the hearts of Jewish people. And it was called the 3 oaths, the shalosh shavuot. 3 vows, the 3 vows. It was part of religious faith of the Jewish people that had been dispersed all over the world. Number 1, that the Jewish people will not go back to the land of Israel as a wall or in mass. Bechomah. That was not supposed to happen. The Jewish people took a vow. We're not going to make a massive push to go back because that is going to be God's plan, not man's plan. That the Jewish people would not rebel against any of the nations of the world, would blend in, and that the nations of the world wouldn't be too harsh with the Jewish people. The 3 oaths, as long as the 3 oaths were in place, Jews did not make a mass migration back to the land of Israel. And why was that? Why did they have these oaths? Because the diaspora, the exiling of the Jewish people, was thought by people that brought me up to be God correcting the evil in the Jewish people. That it was God's plan that the Jewish people wouldn't have a country, that we would be brought low, humbled, without resources, without power, so that our spirits could be corrected. You know, like they say in the New Testament, deliver the body to Satan that the soul might be saved, that kind of a deal. So Jewish people accepted this. They accepted it for hundreds and hundreds of years. In fact, the people that brought me up accepted this, that they were to study and to pray and seek redemption and repentance through the study of the holy books, through fulfilling good deeds, and through charity. And that if enough people, then this is the part where the priests kind of go off on a political deal. what the Jewish people believed was the Messiah is going to come when we're ready for him. In other words, we got to give up our addiction to sin, that you can't hurry the process of redemption, that it's based on each individual participant searching for truth and seeking forgiveness and redemption. So something changed when people lost their faith. And when they lose their faith, that'd be when the Industrial Revolution happened, and all of a sudden people didn't have to be poor. They could go to the cities and be rich. They didn't have to live on the farm. They didn't have to live as poor farmers devoted to God, praying for their daily bread. They could throw off that curse. So they organized. They did organize. And the original Zionists, not a one of them was Jewish. They were all secular. I'm not making it up. You can go study it for yourself. So the original Zionists that came up with this plan to bring the Jews out of Eastern Europe and stick them back in Israel, they were not believers. And they were working with the British Crown. They were even working with the Germans. They were working with any government that they could get to sit down with them to get back to the land of Israel. And when Israel was formed, my people, they weren't down with it. They were not down with it because they had taken on the curse of the diaspora as a mandate for them to improve their own spiritual life. So that there's a tension here. There's a tension, then the priests got into it. Okay, get these Christian Zionists. This is going to bring back Christ. And then the same passages that John Hagee was referencing in his short video, some very religious Jewish people got down on that, and they said, hey, wait a second. What's with these 3 oaths? We're going back. They use the same biblical scripture to justify the Orthodox returning to Israel. And my comment, I'm going to make it one more time, not trying to make people hate me. It's just a question I ask myself. I'm not even asking you to ask it. I ask myself, if the world's been at war, the entire existence of the world, and more war with more and more killing and more money made off the killing, and these scriptures that Reverend Hagee is referencing as the justification for these wars, who wrote this? Are we sure we're going down the right path here? Particularly when God said, I will send you a comforter, and I can have my own relationship with the Lord. You know what the Lord tells me to do? Give up my addiction to sin and love my neighbor as I wish to be loved. I never get a transmission that says, go to Israel, pick up an AK-47 and start killing Palestinians. I never heard that. I never heard that. I mean, just me. Maybe somebody else did. But then it comes down to, who are they listening to? You know, if we don't test the limits of our knowledge and how we got where we are, we're going to blindly fulfill the same scripture that says there's going to be an Armageddon. And I'm not down with Armageddon, and I don't think we have to have it. I think we can have a politics about the well-being of the people. I want the priests to quit lying and teach the people how to be well through faith in God. They can keep their asses out of the political sphere. Stay in your lane. And then we get to the prostitutes. The prostitutes. The prostitutes. Let's play this next clip just because it's a historical piece that's so, I was there. I remember this like it was yesterday. Elizabeth Ray and Representative Hayes. That next clip, could you please play it? I'm going to come up with a number here in a minute. Man, they're number 4.
Powerful men accused of sexually exploiting younger women. Lately, we've seen one bombshell story after another. News like this used to be rare, but not unheard of. 41 years ago, a sex scandal involving a powerful member of Congress rocked Washington.
Congressman Wayne Hayes of Ohio may be smiling in this picture, but he was sputtering with anger today because of an allegation made by a former member of his staff that he employed her to act as a sexual partner. The woman is named Elizabeth Ray. She says she was paid $14,000 a year and that her only job was to provide Hayes with sex.
What do you think you were getting the money for? Wasn't there a quiet understanding on your part? Oh, sure, I knew. I was getting the money for seeing my boss.
For having sexual relations?
That was very clear to me, yes.
Ray famously said she was hired even though, quote, I can't type, I can't file, I can't even answer the phone. At first, Congressman Hayes denied a relationship.
All I can say is she was put on the payroll to work from 9 to 5, the same as everybody else. If she says that she was put on the payroll to be my mistress, it's a total lie.
Hayes was a powerful committee chairman, and many constituents back home stood by him.
I think they're going to try to make something out of this to get rid of him politically.
Hayes fired Ray and attacked her personally.
I feel badly about the whole thing. She's obviously a very sick young woman.
But the next day on the House floor, he admitted to the affair.
He said he didn't care if he was remembered as mean and arrogant. He hoped no one would say Wayne Hayes was dishonest. Hayes left the floor of the House to the applause of the House membership.
There was applause for Hayes' confession, but not everyone in the House was exactly in despair to see him get caught, since he is something less than the most popular member of the House.
Hayes retreated to his farm in Ohio, hoping to tough it out. It didn't work. 3 months later, he resigned in disgrace.
And so, after 28 years in Congress, that is the end of Hayes' career.
Priests, politicians, prostitutes, liars. Okay, let's just delve into this for a second. That's a historical piece. I remember when Elizabeth Ray showed up, I was a young man. I was dating. I was driving. I was at my peak David at that time. And I looked at her and I said, wow, what's with this? Because I'd never seen anybody like Elizabeth Ray at that time. I was still a tender young kid. I was still living with my parents. I thought, what is this story? She's a prostitute, right? She's on the payroll. She's trading sex for money. And if you go back historically, a man could protect his family. So you could say, before the money got involved, that the exchange was sex for safety, sex for protection, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is the same thing. It's just money becomes the intermediary of exchange instead of killing the guy down the block. It's a different kind of, but what's happened? You know, what is a priest supposed to do? A priest is supposed to kindle my love for God and get out of the way. What is men and women supposed to do? I mean, what is our model now? Do we still have the model of loving each other for young people? Is there any model for loving? Or is that passe?
Yeah, we say it, but I don't think many people practice it.
Well, maybe we need to practice it.
Yeah.
Because, and this whole thing was, powerful men exploiting women. Oh, no, that's kind of a scam, the way they talk. This is a symbiotic relationship. This is not just powerful men exploiting women. This is women exploiting powerful men. We don't like to talk about it that way. I get it. But, actually, it's a two-way street. And what is missing here is the love inherent in a bond, which would then bring about a psychological process, which could lead people to what? Get more in contact with the one true Most High God. Because a good relationship between a man and a woman, a good relationship, a committed relationship that's focused on love, is going to bring about a psychological process. TireGet.com, where convenience meets the road. Why make buying tires complicated? With TireGet.com, it's simple. TireGet.com, one site, a few clicks, and the tires of your choice are shipped to an installer right by your house. Why do I say that? Well, personal experience and a lot of reading. And when you make that relationship strictly about exchange, which seems to be all in vogue now. I keep hearing women don't need men.
Yep.
It's all about filling the bag, right?
Yeah.
Well, when we get that lie as the truth, like this other lie that we need a priest to find God. No, we don't. That's a lie. We have to find God on our own. Maybe we can have a guide, a mentor, a teacher. That's helpful. But once that teacher's done the job, get out of the way. And then we got this other group of liars the prostitutes that are acting like they love someone in exchange for money, which abrogates the entire psychological process. It's not sincere. They're lying. And so is the man. The man's lying too. Everybody's lying. Everybody's lying in this priestly relationship. Because if I accept a priest as my master and I'm not taking the responsibility of doing my own work, I'm lying to myself. And of course, that gets encouraged. Just show up on Sunday and pay your dues. It's all good. You're going to heaven. Right?
Yeah.
You really think it's that simple? I don't know. See, again, I don't know who wrote this stuff down, and I got to test it out for myself. It's just me. I'm not telling you, or I'm not trying to change what you believe. I'm just making a nice statement about what I believe. I believe I am responsible to develop my relationship with the Most High God. I believe I am responsible to be a sincere partner who loves the people in their life, whatever that means to me, wherever it goes. Love includes loyalty and commitment, suffering, endurance. Key concepts if you want to go do the first one, which is to have a relationship with God. But if you're going to have a priest blocking your relationship because you trust in them instead of trusting in God, and then you're going to have a fake relationship with a partner, which is going to block your natural psychological process to get more in touch with God, well, now we're getting a lot of pathways to the Most High God shut down for guess what? For money. For money. And now we come to the headwaters of the whole deal. Number 5. Let's listen to number 5.
Hold the applause. Hold the applause. House Republicans are going to pass this debt limit. We are going to show that people the American government doesn't have to be dysfunctional. And by the way, we're also going to show that Republicans, House Republicans under Kevin McCarthy, are the ones that are continuing to lead. We're going to pass this because the alternative is far worse. Don't be fooled. There is no such thing as a clean debt ceiling increase. That's about as dirty as it gets. Handing Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden a blank check for more of their reckless spending that's driving inflation and destroying family finances that Jody was just talking about. With this transformational bill, House Republicans have the opportunity to effect change and implement reforms, all while avoiding default. Joe Biden and Senate Democrats have done absolutely nothing but obstruct. Members of Biden's own party now want him to do the responsible thing and negotiate. Instead, what's he doing? He's already threatening a veto. He is playing with Americans' lives and the economic health of our nation, all in the name of his political theater. It's truly disgusting and revolting. Our members built this legislation from the ground up, and our members are going to pass it. House Republicans, again, are the only ones that are armed with solutions to this problem. It's time for Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer to show us what they're made of. And now,
that's Tom Emmer pitching the debt ceiling increase. It was called the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023. Listen to the name of this thing. The Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023. Tom Emmer, House Majority Whip, whipping votes. The thing passed because of Democrat votes. And when it passed, the national debt was standing at $31.46 trillion. This is in 2023. Not that long ago. Mm-hmm. That's June 3rd, 2023. It's not even 3 years ago, okay? The Fiscal Responsibility Act. Doesn't that sound like we're going to be fiscally responsible?
Yeah.
Right? That was the name of the act. Well, when the act expired, which was on January 1st, 2025, the debt was at $36 trillion. So it had gone up $5 trillion in 2 years. Fiscal Responsibility Act. See, Tom Emmer, lying. That's a lie, right? A mega lie. Stood up in front of the American people and said it was the greatest cuts to government spending in U.S. government history. And they racked up another $5 trillion in 2 years. And now we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary, And as of yesterday, the debt's at $38.76 trillion. So since Tom Emmer pushed this thing through, and again, he's talking about the theater of Joe Biden. No, it's the theater. And Tom Emmer was playing court jester, making us all laugh. Oh, I was laughing. To me, it was funny. Maybe to nobody else. I thought it was hilarious because he actually sold us a story that let the government expand by $7 trillion in 3 years. Good work, Representative Emmer. Good work. That's called, boy, that's some selling right there. So what is the politician? If the priest is lying saying we need him to get to God, and the prostitute is lying saying, I love you, what is the politician lying about? Well, as long as we keep electing these professionals, these stuffed shirts that are on the payroll of the 3,000 that run the world, they're going to keep telling us that they're interested in fiscal responsibility, affordability, the well-being of the American people, and they're just going to keep making us poorer and government bigger, because if they made government smaller, guess what would happen? They'd lose their jobs.
Yep.
We wouldn't need them. We wouldn't need them if they made their legislation such that the government shrunk up. Why would we need them? We wouldn't need them. We wouldn't need them. So they're lying. They're saying, trust me, I'm here for you. No, they're here for themselves. Just like a priest, just like a prostitute, a politician is saying that they're there for someone else. Oh, I'm going to show you how to find God. Oh, I love you. And oh, I'm going to help you make you a better life. I'm going to shrink the government. I'm going to make things affordable. They're all liars by definition, based on where we're at today. Now, could this change? Well, yes, it could change, and I'll tell you why I know it could change. Because up to the 1850s, no Orthodox Jews wanted to go back to the land of Israel. They had taken the 3 vows, and they had accepted their diaspora, and they were waiting patiently for God's will. And then over the course of about 100 years, everybody changed their mind because of a change of consciousness. And here was the change of consciousness. We're not waiting around for God. We're doing it ourselves. This is politics. Whoa, that was the transition away from faith to politics. And here we sit on the verge of another unnecessary war in the Middle East. Goes back 200 years. Now, these problems are immense. I cannot fix this. I can only work on myself. I can only make myself better. And I can encourage you to work on yourself and to work on the people around you by making I statements, like I talked about with Tanner. You don't look at your kid and go, you're a liar. That's kind of a conversation killer. No, honey, I tell the truth because it's good for my well-being. And just walk away and let them think about it. Because they're not stupid. They just need not to be repulsed by the word you. It's all about what I am doing in my own sphere of influence. So let's realize that these priests, these prostitutes, and politicians are lying to us. If they tell the truth, they lose their jobs. No job for them. They're not going to get. How do we fix this? By making our own lives committed to truth, committed to the search for truth, committed to well-being, committed to putting sin down in our own lives, and then expanding our sphere of influence as the plan unfolds in our life. Maybe one day I'll run for office. Maybe I never will. It's me walking the path. What do I have to do today? I'm not thinking downrange 5 years from now about how I'm going to do this or do that. What do I have to do today? That's what I'm thinking about. That's called being in the present. So let us be very suspicious of these priests and these politicians and these prostitutes, because if they did their job the way they say they're going to do their job, they wouldn't have a job. And we can see this right from this SAVE Act. This is very critical that we understand that a vast majority of the people, Democrats and Republicans both, want voter ID so they can have faith in our elections. And this bill is not going to pass because the Republican leadership in the Senate, John Thune, Senate Majority Leader, will not bring it up for a vote because it cannot get by cloture. It can't get by, the 60 votes needed to end the argument. They're never going to have a vote on it. So everybody's going to say we support it and nothing's going to happen. You know what President Trump said? I don't care what Congress does. We're going to have voter ID in the next election. That's a bold statement. No rules. We're in a period of no rules. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a Congress full of rhinos, of professionals who say one thing and do another. What do we have to do? We got to put pressure on them, but we got to do it from a place of moral authority. We can't ask people to do the right thing if we're not doing the right thing ourselves. So the first step in this is for us to regain our own spiritual well-being. Then we'll have the moral authority to demand appropriate change. And I want to just go back and say, I'm not trying to tell anybody I don't believe in the Bible. I'm questioning the info war. If you question the information you receive today, if you question what CNN says, if you question what Fox News says, if you question what MS Now says, if you question what you see online, if you can't trust anything, I'm just taking to the natural extension. What can I trust? Well, I can trust myself if I'm honest with myself. And I'm going to start there. That's my I statement. I am going to trust myself by being honest with myself. Please play number 6.
Yeah, I mean, I think Europe is coming to the realization, but they certainly need to come to the realization that not only can they no longer count on the United States to provide the security guarantees that it has been providing for 80 years, but they really need to understand that the United States is now a hostile and potentially predatory nation under Donald Trump. So Europe is now in the predicament of facing an aggressor and a predatory empire to its east, but also now a potentially predatory but certainly hostile empire to its west. And so that means Europeans really need to, much more quickly than I think they intended, strengthen themselves both militarily and economically so that they can protect their interests and their ideology, their belief in freedom and democracy and liberalism against the real challenges which are now coming from all directions.
That's Robert Kagan. I'm playing him as a setup there on CNN. He's a graduate of Yale University, Harvard School of Government. He was a foreign policy advisor to Jack Kemp. He worked in several administrations. He co-founded the Project for the New American Century with the reviled Bill Kristol. He was the foreign policy advisor to Republican presidential candidate John McCain. And they run him out there all the time as a very important pundit, a very important commentator. And, he's a professor. I should have put the professors on the list. But, 3 sounds so good. But you could put in priests, prostitutes, politicians, and professors.
Yeah.
Because they're lying too. And, when the professors lie, a lot of them are lying because they were so educated. They don't even know they're lying. They lost sight of reality. And he's out there saying that Europe has to face a predatory America under Donald Trump. Well, what's my point bringing up Kagan? Kagan was very influential in the neoconservative movement. And he's in media, he's in academia, and his wife is Victoria Nuland. And we've talked about Victoria Nuland a lot. Victoria Nuland resigned. She was an assistant secretary of state under President Biden. She resigned. Everybody goes, why is she resigning? I mean, she's been running things in the Ukraine going back to the way back under Obama. We've played the clips. She was actually in the square when the Maidan Revolution was going on. She was the woman on the scene representing America's strategic interest. And that interest was to make sure that a pro-Russian government was overthrown, and it was. And now we still have Ukrainians and Russians slaughtering each other right now as we're watching this podcast together. So Victoria Nuland resigned from government. You know where she ended up? She ended up as the board member of the National Endowment for Democracy, a reviled institution that Elon Musk said was a scam. It's mobbed up with the CIA, has a huge budget, and it spreads democracy throughout the world. Whatever that means, right? Democracy. 50% of the people plus one believe in it. It's good. Democracy. And she's now a very influential member on the board of directors, the board of trustees of the National Endowment for Democracy, which is an NGO funded by, guess who funds it, Tanner? You know who funds it? You do.
Oh, great.
You fund it for like $350 million a year. It's come out of your taxes. Yeah, you're funding this woman who was the architect of the overthrow of a pro-Russian government, which led to all this killing. And if you don't agree with me, look it up for yourself, come to your own conclusion. I've reached mine. And now she's running a spook organization which reproduces the same kind of processes that she oversaw in Ukraine. And you know when she got funded, you know who funded her? A Republican Congress. So when I say this is a bunch of theater and a bunch of bullshit, and we're so far from having this sorted out, we may be farther away than we were before the last election, because the empire is striking back. And these kind of people, these kind of debauched, demoralized people are everywhere in our government. Let's play number 7.
Club of Rome was born in 1968. In 1972, Limits to Growth was published, which introduced the environmental issue to the world. 50 years after the publication of the book, the economic development classic paradigm based on exponential and infinite growth is still insufficiently questioned by the world's politicians and economists. The consequence is that, at the present exploitation and consumption rate, nearly 8 billion of humans need 2 planets to survive when only one is available. Today we live on a planet full of humans and human production. Growth in a full world is not applicable, but still it is the base of economic planning. At present, all trends and human footprints reflect the inadequacy and misdirection of public policies, business strategies, and the underlying distorted social values and education system. Alternatives and solutions are already in our hands, but need to become mainstreaming in global public policies to be effective. After 50 years, time is not on our side anymore.
So this Club of Rome, this was the group that started the environmental movement, and that, there's a limit to growth. That was the carrying capacity of the planet. This goes back to Malthus in the 1800s. It's not a new idea. And, President Trump this past week ended the identification of greenhouse gas emissions. He ended them as being identified as a threat. There is no more environmental movement here in the United States. President Trump brought it to an end. It's the greatest deregulation in American history. Unlike Tom Emmer, who said it was going to be the greatest cuts to spending, no, Trump actually did this. They revoked the scientific. They revoked a leaning on or a fundamental policy of the scientific findings that greenhouse gases must be regulated to fight climate change. It's over. This was put in place in 2009 under Obama. It was known as the endangerment finding. And the Obama era policy determined that carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases endanger public health and welfare. Trump ended it. I mean, it's over. So when I say this order is over, it started with the Club of Rome in the 1960s. These are academics, these are professors that started this. They were on the payroll of somebody. You just have to do your own research. They didn't all get together on their own. These people don't spend their own money. Somebody flew them to Rome. Figure out who those people are, and you'll know who they were working for. Now, I don't want to litigate this environmental thing. I do think there's environmental facts and problems. But I'm going to say we need a T-shirt because I personally would rather die from a tornado than a tyrant. Please play number 8.
In one way or another, we are so far, globally, we are so far above the population and the consumption levels, which can be supported by this planet, that I know in one way or another it's going to come back down. So I don't hope to avoid that. I hope that it can occur in a civil way, and I mean civil in a special way, peaceful. Peace doesn't mean that everybody's happy, but it means that conflict isn't solved through violence, through force, but rather in other ways. And so that's what I hope for. That we can, I mean, the planet can support something like 1 billion people, maybe 2 billion, depending on how much liberty and how much material consumption you want to have. If you want more liberty and more consumption, you have to have fewer people. And conversely, you can have more people. I mean, we could even have 8 or 9 billion probably if we have a very strong dictatorship, which is smart. Unfortunately, you never have smart dictatorships. They're always stupid. So, but if you had a smart dictatorship and a low standard of living, you can have it. But we want to have freedom and we want to have a high sentence. So we're going to have 1 billion people. And we're now at 7, so we have to get back down. I hope that this can be slow, relatively slow, and that it can be done in a way which is relatively equal, so that people share the experience and you don't have a few rich, trying to force everybody else to deal with it. So those are my hopes. I mean, these are pretty pessimistic hopes, but that's what lies ahead.
That's Dennis Meadows. He was one of the authors of Limits to Growth, Club of Rome, as a young man. Here he is as a much older man, letting us know what the plan is. There's 7 billion people, and we're going down to 1 billion. Isn't that nice? You think you're going to make the cut there, young man?
No, but I got to say, I think he's probably the best one to explain it.
What if it's not true? What if it's a complete lie? How would we know? How would we know? Why would we submit as the American people to a 6/7 reduction in our population? Why would we do that? That would mean, actually, there's 8 billion people now, so it means 7 of every 8 people are going to be gone, going away. How are they going to go away? I mean, and then the people that paid for this Limits to Growth, that's the 3,000 people that really control things, that have the big money, that sit on all the boards, the Rockefellers, those kind of people. We're starting to talk about them more and more. We're going to talk about a guy next week more. We're going to start calling these people out because they're just people that have a lot of money. But apparently, they're worshiping a different God than I am. They do different rituals than I do, and they're willing to hurt other people in a way I would never even consider. So, if they're tied in, which we seem to are getting a lot of evidence that they're involved with an antichrist, and they have rituals and sacrifices and a whole ideology, why would we believe anything that they say or that any of the people that they hire to say anything? I mean, how deep does this rabbit hole really go? And, we're going to kind of stay on the surface of it because it's so emotionally triggering to recognize what was really going on in that Epstein Island. I mean, nobody's really staying present with it. It's kind of going away already, isn't it?
I guess not for me. I still see a lot of stuff. Like, more people are just uncovering. They're building a bunch of websites that make it really easy for people to actually look through it. Like, they made a whole Gmail.
Are you doing it? Are you looking through it?
Not personally, but I've been seeing. Yeah,
I mean,
I've been seeing still a lot of talk about it.
If there's no truth, there can't be justice. If there's no justice, there's no peace. So if we're going to go by this search for truth and let this get covered up and there's no justice, there's no prosecutions, there's no mass arrests for this, they don't pick these wealthy people up and imprison them after a trial. First of all, let's see if the evidence is real. If we don't have a process of searching for truth that culminates in justice, there's not going to be any peace. Peace will become impossible. This is a very important issue in world history. And in my entire life, there's never been a moment when evil has shown itself to this degree. The last time was slightly before I was born, was the Nazis. Okay? So this evil's always out there. I mean, we can go back. I mean, we can find, King Leopold, the Belgium king who had colonial holdings in Africa, had millions of people killed. Nobody even talks about it. Mass murderer, genocide. This goes on and on and on throughout human history. And when we self-empower, when we search for truth, when we won't give up the desire to know what really happened and then push our government to have trials so that we get dispositive evidence, if this doesn't happen, it's going to get a lot worse because this behavior will then be normalized. I mean, if they can get away with this, if what's in those documents is true, which I know it's true because, as I've said, I've seen this with my own two eyes and heard it with my own ears. So I know that this goes on. Maybe that's why I had that experience. I remember when that happened to me in the 80s, I go, why am I going through this hell? This is crazy. I don't want to do this. And I didn't want to do it. And I felt very bitter that I'd been drawn into it. But maybe it prepared me to say, hey, this is real because I actually had it in my, I didn't read it in a book. You know what I'm trying to say? I know what's going on because I saw it with my own eyes. I listened to people tell me what happened because they lived through it. Now, I didn't participate in any satanic rituals, but I talked to the people who did face-to-face, lots of them, and they corroborated each other's stories. So there has to be a search for truth. There has to be a demand by the American people that this is really brought out into the disinfecting element of sunlight. And if we don't do that, it will get worse. So please, even if it's just talking to your friends and neighbors, don't let this get forgotten. There's about to be allegedly, I don't know if it's true, a giant war in the Middle East. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm already seeing people say it's a cover-up, it's a diversion from this Epstein document release. I'm glad to hear that young people are creating archives and going through these documents and researching them.
It's just like, I'm not happy I haven't seen any action. I still am just stuck on how in the world can 10,000 people flood the Minneapolis streets about ICE, regardless of what view you think. But then when we get confirmation that powerful people are being protected doing the sickest things that we could ever imagine, there's nobody in the street protesting that. I still see people holding signs saying, get ICE out, when, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that ICE left Minnesota.
Well, that I don't know. They were supposed to be leaving.
Yeah.
But your point is very good. What if you're willing to stand in the cold to protest the treatment of illegal immigrants into the country by the federal government? Leftists, why aren't you protesting for the sexual abuse of children, to stop the sexual abuse of children, the killing of children? It just seems to me to be strange. I think you've ended the podcast with an excellent point, something we could all think about. We have things we want to protest. We have things we want to protest in the conservative movement that are very important to us. And we show up at rallies, 50, 60,000 people. Where's the outrage about this? Well, I'll tell you where it is. People don't want to deal with it because it's very uncomfortable. But we're going to keep it in your face. I'm keeping it in my own face. And this is where we have to make our stand in the search for truth. Without truth, we cannot have justice. And if we don't have justice, the unnecessary wars will continue forever. On that very unhappy note, I'm going to wish you a good weekend. I want to tell you, if you hung in here to the end, boy, we're going to have some great events. While we were sitting here today, I just got a text, And I got a confirmation that at our March 4th community meeting at the Wayzata Central Middle School, Mike Lindell's going to be a guest.
Oh, nice.
So you're going to be able to, well, we'll have some shorts. Somebody will go film it and you'll put it out for the world.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're very happy to hear that. We're very happy to hear that political leaders are coming into CD3 and willing to work with the citizens of CD3 in the search for truth. I want to thank you all. You know, I get a little quiet and a little bit confounded by this information because it is triggering for me to even present it to you. And I want you to receive it and take it as a call to action. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody.